All right, so this is business 483 with the CloudFlare discussion. We've had our prayer and our spiritual thoughts. We'll just go ahead and start into it. So, like you had mentioned, Herb, it asked us to discuss CVP, GTM, TOM, and CFF. So I think CVP, that's the customer value proposition, correct?
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Now that you say that absolutely yes.
Okay. Then let's discuss that first. So I think the key elements of the customer value proposition is first, it makes it easier to use your websites and it makes them safer. And specifically for the customers, they have a more reliable website where they don't have to stay up all night keeping an eye on it. Because I know some of the customers talked about how it saved them several hours of sleep each night because CloudFlare could take care of that for them instead of them worrying about it. So I think that's their big customer value proposition is increased website capability and security.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, they definitely have that security aspect. I thought it was pretty clever that, and I'm not sure, I'm not an expert on computer security and stuff like that, but I thought it was pretty cool how they were able to have their system get smarter the more that they were attacked. So it's almost like after an attack, that's when they were at their strongest because they had. So I don't know a lot of companies just like a bad thing happened to them, and then they kind of come out on top because they're the strongest they've ever been.
Right. Yeah.
Just like you said, a thing that can make your speed like double using clever, coding is that's a pretty smart idea. I think a lot of go for that.
Okay. So on this chart, are you guys able to see that chart, or do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, I didn't do the chart.
I didn't do it either. Let's just discuss it then.
But I think, on the next question for the CVP, I think they should continue doing that. And I think they should explain more how they get smarter as they learn more about the individual customers being attacked and things being exploited, and how that, that one customer that if he were on his own, would be extremely difficult for him to share that with all the other website owners and hosts. But because they have this aggregated system and they're all falling under CloudFlare, they can immediately apply that same solution that Austin's website required. They can apply that same solution to Landon and my website, and so immediately the whole network gets safer. And I think, although they mentioned it in that interview that we watched with Bloomberg, it didn't really come across that way in the case study that that's one of the main selling points.
Right. Yeah, they mentioned it, but they didn't discuss really how it works. That's kind of a very interesting concept that it gets smarter, and I think just like you said, Herb, and Austin as well, that's like the main thing they should be focusing on, because I know with the Bloomberg interview, they were talking about the fact that they got attacked and kind of looking at it negatively. But then he says, no, that's making us stronger and making us a better product and company. So I think, yeah, elaborating on that and showing exactly how that works would definitely add some value to them. As far as organizational implications, what do you just think on that, Herb? What do you think on organization?
Hey, Landon, I cannot hear you at all now.
Oh, you can? Can you hear me now?
Out for me too.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you better, but it sounds really tinny.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Hold on 1 second.
Right back in my face now.
Okay, 1 second. Let me grab something. All right, can you guys hear me any better now?
Yeah. Yes, much better.
Okay, perfect. So, let's see, where were we? All right, so the organizational implications of the CVP. What do you guys think? Austin, what do you think the organizational implications of the customer value proposition is?
Well, I think for part of it is, you know, by necessity, if you're having that as your, you know, CVP is you need to have a lot of engineers, which they do. I think I don't know. I think with the whole organizational structure, I'm not sure if they did it right here. I know that engineers and those coders and tech people, you know, traditionally might not have organization as far as you know, business, and they kind of just want to do their own thing. Needs to really they need to have a few like heavy hitters as far as business goes, because whenever you're dealing with big companies and that aspect of value proposition, they need to have some people that are very good at working with those companies and very good at managing the engineers, and perhaps a time of crisis when they're being, one of their larger clients is being attacked.
Right. Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting how they had organized themselves. How they went the whole no hierarchy. Really, there's no supervision. There is, but it's not official, if that makes sense. Which it's discussed down here further, but I kind of want to get into that first, because I think it kind of fits in with what you were saying, Austin. Let's see, where does it say that? No, I can't find it. Okay, so here in the very last, in question 7, it asks, should CloudFlare implement more process and structure, hire a VP of HR, and start using titles? But I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, Austin, because I think that personally, looking at each one of the resignations, a lot of it kind of stemmed because they didn't have the structure from organization. Does that make sense? I think that a lot of things could have been avoided had they had a direct supervisor to go to talk to about each of their issues, with someone that could actually make a difference. And I don't think the way that they're organized right now works that way. And I think with what you're saying with the organizational implications as far as CVP, without that structure, I don't think they know exactly how to go about it. You mentioned the relationships with other companies, but if you don't have someone specifically assigned to that task, it's hard to actually go about it. You think that, I mean, you would assume that the founders would take that role, but I think it's definitely important that it needs to be organized and structured, which I think they've purposely kind of left out, but I think it's been a more destructive to their company than anything. What did you guys think the GTM stood for? Because I think I thought something different. I don't know what that is. What GTM is. or TOM. The only one I recognize is the CFF, which I think is cash flow from financing, but I don't know.
I got for GTM just from the internet go-to-market strategy. So like how the business would like reach its clients, or how it would get its clients competitively.
Okay.
That makes a whole lot more sense. I thought it stood for Global Traffic Manager, how they manage the data traffic and have it on a server closest to the actual web visitor. But go-to-market makes a whole lot more sense.
All right, let's just see what it means go-to-market then. So I think right now they've got a decent go-to-market plan. But they only have 500,000 users, which is a lot, but in terms of the kind of product they're offering, something that can be set up within 5 minutes and doesn't really cost them more for each user directly, I think they need to go about it a little more. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, and remember that of those 500,000 users, only 4%, or about 20,000 people are actually paying.
Right.
Right. The remaining 480,000 are not truly paying. They're helping the system get better by, allowing a Cloudflare to use their attacks and whatnot to make the whole system better, but they're not helping with overhead costs.
Right. Yeah, and I think that still that alludes to their go-to-market plan, like you said, Herb, because although those people aren't necessarily paying, I think most of their customer acquisition comes from word of mouth. So the more non-paying users you have, you get more paying users. So, but that is an interesting thought, because only 4%. What was the other one the other case study we did where they did the freemium formula? I think it was something around.
Oh yeah, I remember. But I mean, I remember the freemium, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think that the word of mouth, because they haven't, from what I could see, it doesn't look like they've spent a lot on marketing. They've pretty much relied on word of mouth. They don't have a sales team. They don't have a marketing team. But then again, they don't have the cost of those things either. So I think that as they continue to get their name out there and continue to get free customers, obviously the paying customers are going to follow. But I don't know if they're going to get the growth that they want or expect just by word of mouth. So I think, personally, that starting a small marketing campaign, or maybe hiring just a few sales consultants to put on a sales team, could really increase their market share. What do you think, Austin?
I totally agree. I think their product is really good competitively. Have the best product in the world, and if no one knows about it, you're going to fail as a company, right? So I think exactly what you're saying, Landon. I think if you don't have marketing, you're going to fail as a company. Even if you do have, word of mouth, whatever you have there. If you don't start, especially for tech, I mean, once you do it, it'll build on itself and it'll grow. But if you're not putting any money into sales or into marketing, really poor management.
Yeah, and it seems like they've received fairly large sums of cash from investors. They just closed a $20 million Series B round, it looks like. And from what I saw, they're not burning through that cash very easily or very fast. I think they need to put it to use to acquire some more customers, What do you think, Herb?
Yeah, I think somewhere in the case study it says that they haven't even done anything in regards to converting their freemium customers to premium customers, right? And that they even understood the opportunity. I don't, and I think it has to do with their lack of organization structure. I can't remember who had said that saw that issue uh, about somebody one of their employees. I think it was even one of the founders said that, hey, it would be a really good idea, but we haven't done it yet. And I think their lack of, I mean, it's like it's this group of buddies. They're all excited about what CloudFlare could possibly do, but there's no general that tells the troops, okay, this is where we're heading. Or at least there's no sergeants. There might be a general that somewhat has an idea, but he doesn't know enough about what's going on in the trenches. So you need some sergeants, you know, that run around and kind of direct the frontline troops, the boots on the ground. Hey, this is the general vision we have, and that's the direction we need to go. So all our efforts are coordinated in the same direction. And so I think that's why, my opinion, they need to change the whole organization structure and just somebody, there needs to be more people in, not that they need to add a whole layer of middle management, but they need to have people who are ultimately in charge and report to, what's the guy's name? Zatlin?
I think so, something like that.
Yeah, Zatlin, or I know there's Matthew Prince, and then it's the only one I can remember.
Oh, Prince, that's right. Zatlin was one of the founding fathers, I think, or founding partners, but it was Prince who is the big dog.
Yeah, I think that a lot of these issues come back to that organizational structure. And I know, just as you mentioned, Herb, one of them did say that they haven't ever tried to sell the premium product to their free users. And it mentioned in there, all they had to do is maybe send one email just to get a percentage of them to move to the paid subscription. So I think that's definitely something they need to start to do. Try and, as you said, Herb, convert the people who are using it for free, get them to see the value of the paid product, and then actually implement a marketing campaign that's organized with structure. TOM, so I got two different results, and I don't know which one it is. One was time on market, and the other one was no, I can't remember. Target operating model. I don't know which one it's supposed to be. You guys have any idea?
Which one would you like?
Okay, I just quickly looked up target operating model. It says it's the description of the desired state of the operating model of an organization. When working on the operating model, it's defined the as-is model and the to-be model. So it's basically moving from the current state to the state that it should be. So just like what we just discussed, you know, there needs to be somebody who has a vision of where the company needs to be in, you know, the next 3 months, a year, and then, you know, long-term 3, 5, 6 years. And right now there's nobody truly in charge. They all just talk to each other and come up with great ideas, but there's no strategic direction.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like if we asked the founders themselves what their target operating model is, I don't think they'd know. I don't think they put that much thought into the future.
Almost like a hippie business, honestly.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Herb.
Yeah, those videos that were on there are interesting.
It was almost like there's just this lack of planning with it, you know. It was, I don't know, kind of just always taken every day by the fly, it seemed like.
Freaking millennials, I'm telling you.
I agree. Yeah, I think definitely they need to come up with a target operating model. I think a lot of that will come from, as we've discussed.
Lenny, you cut out again for me.
Oh, did I?
Same here.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I mean, it's like you're in the room.
Okay. Let's see. Let's move on to the customer or the cash flow from financing. That's what I thought it was. You guys have something better that we can go with that.
I just tried to search a little better, and I don't come up with anything. Common file format makes the most sense. I'm sure that has nothing to do with this.
All right. Well, okay. Let's just discuss a little bit about their.
Oh, that's probably what it is. In number 4, it says cash flow formula.
Cash flow formula. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right, Landon.
Okay. Let's go with that. Well, since that's what number 4 talks about, let's just move into that and kind of discuss the key elements and stuff from that. Do you guys have an Excel model you want to share? I can share mine first.
Sure.
Let me see. Let me get this. So the question is, how long will it take them to become profitable? And it asked us to use, let me go back just to make sure I read it correctly. Yeah, how long will it take them to be profitable if you use or you hire more engineers in direct proportion to how they scale? So this is the spreadsheet I came up with. And if we put in the numbers, I don't know directly if this is what they're talking about when they say that the number of engineers and employees they need is in direct proportion to how they scale. So I just did it based off of how many users. So if I have this many users, I need. So I'll just go ahead and put some in. So if I put in 1.5 million, so we need 105 employees, but that's doing it in direct proportion to how it was with the 35 employees, which I don't know that that's right. I don't think it is, because doing it that way, you never become profitable. You're always spending more than you're making. So I don't know about that. What were your spreadsheets like?
So, go ahead. I'm sorry, Austin. Go ahead.
Oh, you got it.
Herb, you want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
I did similar to you, just looking a little different. So the top right here. So one thing I did is I don't believe that all 4% of paying customers are all going to be on the lowest tier of $20.
Right.
So I just did my own little, just what I thought would be appropriate. So 3.96% and then 0.03 and then 0.01. So the enterprise clients will be 50, business clients 150, and 19,800 will be pro clients. So that's where they're operating right now, with 35 staff at 150,000, and they're in the hole for almost $1 million. So I didn't quite go with the numbers that the case study showed. And then I did this, and what I did is use the what if, the goal seek, sorry. So if I set the earnings before income to 0 by changing the cell of how much they should need to increase their numbers, it's really not. Oops. I think let me do it one more time quickly. So to break even, to take care of that $1 million in the hole, all they have to do is add 7 more users on the enterprise level, 20 users on the business clients, and then a significant amount on the pro clients, but it's still manageable. So altogether, it would still only be, what's that? 4.5 probably. I should have done. Oh, that's not right. Sorry about that. So 5%, 4.54%. And then I just changed this number, and it came out to like every, I want to say it was every two, it was like 2% for every employee that they need to increase. So it's still not, I mean, if you look here, adding 5 more network engineers or staff or whatever, it still doesn't really change these numbers dramatically. And I think that's something that they could easily accomplish. And probably we could also change that by changing the number of users. So there you go. If you increase the users by 10%, you can hire 5 more employees. Anyway,
yeah, I think
something along those lines is.
Yeah, we did basically the same thing except for.
Yeah.
I think what you did in terms of employees was more correct because mine's just off the charts. And then I like what you did concerning the other groups of paying customers. And I wish we had a little more information on how much or what percentages came from those, but yeah, with those numbers, it looks like they can become profitable if they increase. What was it you said? 10% on their customer or their users.
Actually, it's a little bit more. I forgot to take out the increase. So if you take out the increase, if they still run at the same numbers of 4% broken up over the 3 levels of paying customers, so you have to increase it by about 25%.
25%. Okay.
The overall user base.
Right. Which is totally feasible with something like this.
Oh, absolutely.
Were your numbers similar, Austin?
So I just did the freemium model. Here, I'll show you.
Come on, Mr. Excel.
Oh, I'm not sure about this one. We'll see. And you'll have to tell me if it's the right screen here. Are you seeing anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is based off of, so this is what I have confidence in, this whole part. The rest of this is on, I did an 8% growth rate per year. I'm not really sure, but based off this, I'm honestly not really sure where they got the cost of the employees, or I'm sorry, the cost the variable costs of 2.6 million. When I did the calculations, I got 33 million. Just because if it's $3 or $3.50 per $3.50 per million views, and you have 73 billion or trillion or whatever. This is in millions here. Views per year, because you have 2 billion views a day, right? So if you were to times those, I got 32. I don't know. What did you guys get for just for what the variable costs were for that?
I got that it was the 2.6. So what I did was I did the, let me put this back to the original number really quick. Or 2.5, I guess. So I did the 2 billion times 365, then I divided it by a million, because it was $3.50 per million. So there's my formula. So it was C6, which is page views times 365 divided by a million times 3.5, which gave me 2.55 million.
I must have done something sketchy there.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so that's pretty close to the 2.6.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that. I must have made some sort of mistake. I also did, because that's just for the, no, oh, that might be it.
All right. So, it's a combination of all of our cash flows. I definitely like how you did the, how exactly did you do the number of employees, Herb? I did it.
Question line you're telling.
Sorry about that.
Okay. What was the question?
How did you calculate the percentage increase in the employees?
I just used the, what was that tool called again? The goal seek tool.
Goal seek, okay.
So I just held it over I started with the earnings before income, which is basically just taking your income, deducting your expenses, blah, 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 blah. And then just changing that to 0 by either changing the increase that you would need to your different client stages, or what it shows right now, how many more additional users you would have to attract to pay for a total of 40 employees.
Okay.
Because really, I mean, the only two metrics that they can change is either the overall number of clients with the same ratio of 4% paying, or they can work on that, increasing that subscription model base of customers, pushing it past 4%.
I think, honestly, that would probably be the easiest option, because that'll increase their number overnight. If people get an email, just like this in the case, you get
even a mixed approach, like Austin, you said 5%, 8%.
Yeah, I had 8%. I honestly don't know.
So that will be 540,000 customers. But you also have. I like how you did it. That the customer, as the users increased, you also had that 8% applied to the staff. I liked how you presented that.
Yeah, and hopefully they grow faster than 8, but I figured that was a good. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So I'm when we're done, after I'm done with my meetings tonight, I'm going to work on that, doing something along those lines, and then just do the goal seek.
Yeah, I'm going to change mine up a little bit too. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. You have another meeting at 8, correct, Herb?
I'm sorry?
You have a meeting at 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we're making good time.
So, okay, why does CloudFlare management want to get big fast? What benefits does CloudFlare receive from scale? I think we've touched on this already, but one of the major things I see is the more people they have, the better the system gets. That's one of the cruxes of their business model. If they miss that, then they're not really adding much value. So I think scale really adds value in the sense that it improves their product, as well as if it's a percentage of customers that pay, then it also increases your profits as well. So those are the two main ones I see. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think whenever I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not. I kind of went back and forth on this. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think, Herb?
I just think the faster they scale, like you said, they're going to have more user data that's going to continue to fortify their system. and make it stronger, make it safer for all users. But number two, they're going to increase their paying base of consumers, of customers, sorry, not consumers, of customers. So, and then the other thing is, I would think, I mean, there's only so many variations of exploits and denial of service attacks that hackers can employ. I would think there would come kind of a state of equilibrium where they really don't need to hire more engineers, right? Because, you know, user number 520,000 may experience the same attack as user number 50,000. So you don't need to have two different engineers working on that problem. One engineer can cover them both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So I don't think they need to scale the engineers at the same pace, at the same steep incline as they scale users.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I know that they talked about they're continually looking for ways to automate and improve it.
Yeah.
If they're truly doing that, then they're not going to need to scale in direct proportion with their user base. That, from my calculations, that got out of hand really quick, and they needed a lot of engineers. So does CloudFlare have economies of scale? Austin, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Honestly, when it comes to technology and downloads and things of that nature, I'm not really sure. I think the marginal cost will pretty much stay the same. I mean, once you're dealing with, 2 billion a day, I don't think at that scale. I don't think if you scale it up more, it's going to make much of a difference, since you're already dealing with large numbers, and it essentially, it costs very, very little to do do that kind of technical online stuff. So I really doubt it.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I felt that they already have 2 billion views a day. I don't think their price is going to change. They increase that to 4 billion. But with what Herb just said, I kind of think that they might have decreasing marginal costs as far as the salary if they can.
Yep, exactly.
Down. I think that's one marginal cost that they can decrease. But in terms of everything else, I don't really think there is much economy of scale. What do you think, Herb?
Well, I mean, I do think, as they stated in the case study as well, as solid state storage data goes down and bandwidth cost continues to decrease, and as they grow bigger and bigger, right, they have also more and more data that they can exchange with other networks. And so I do think that there's certainly economies of scale as they get, they have more storage space available, and they have more bandwidth space available that they can then trade with other networks. I do think as they gain more and more users, their cost will continue to decrease.
That makes sense. Yeah, I didn't really think about the drives themselves, but I doubt that their drives are full now, but they're paying on a per user basis with still plenty of.
But that same drive you have now, you can probably, that you bought what, 2-3 years ago, you can probably buy the same kind of drive that's at least 50, 60, 80% larger for the same amount of money.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so does CloudFlare have network effects, i.e. the value of the service increases for each customer when there are more customers using it? I think we've pretty much gone over that.
Yep, absolutely.
The product improves with each user, so yes, it does add more value. You guys have anything else you want to add, or let's just keep
No, I agree. We've already covered that.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So does Cloudflare have high switching costs? Will it be costly or painful for customers to switch to a competitor if there were such a competitor? I don't think there's going to be actual costs involved in switching, other than the fact that they're losing a customer. I don't think that they're going to have, at least from what I can see, actual costs that arise from losing customers. Do you guys see anything that would make you think that they have to actually pay, other than the fact that they're losing a customer when a customer decides to switch?
There may not be any initial upfront cost of doing such a switch, but there would certainly be a long-term cost, because any competitor would have to start where Cloudflare started a few years ago, right? Just to kind of collect that data, aggregate that data, and make improvements based on that. In addition, Cloudflare has developed several patents. So if a competitor, develops similar tools that infringe on those patents, they're going to have to, at minimum, they're going to have to pay Cloudflare a licensing fee, which in turn is going to increase the competitor's cost, and they're going to have to charge their customers more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I also think there's a cost as long as their competitors don't have the same benefits as Cloudflare, kind of like Herb was saying. The greatest one that I think of is, they double the speed. So there would be some sort of cost with making your speed half of what it was by switching to a competitor. If people are going to your website and it suddenly is, half as fast as it once was,
right.
They might decide, maybe this company is not as good as it was. Maybe I'll go to a competitor. So they might be losing on some business of their own from switching.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too. All right. So, what other reasons might Cloudflare management have for wanting to get big fast? We've discussed this one as well. You guys have any other?
It almost kind of goes hand in hand with the last question we discussed, right? The faster that Cloudflare grows, the more data they're going to have, the more users they're going to have, and the stronger their competitive advantage. So they're going to continue that entry cost for a competitor is just going to continue to get higher and higher and higher, because Cloudflare is going to be able to provide a better and better and better service.
Yeah, I think honestly that's their main reason for wanting to expand, because it definitely cuts out the competition, improves their product, improves their sales. Really, there's no downfall to growing and scaling. But although that is the next question, so what reasons might you suggest to not growing so fast? I think you've alluded to that as far as organizational. I don't think that the organization itself is prepared to scale that fast. I think they need to make some changes in terms of management and having a structured model, having an actual HR department. I don't think that they can make all of these changes and grow as fast as they want and as big as they want without first implementing that, or I think it's going to just cause them havoc in the future. What do you think, Herb?
Yeah. I mean, like we said before, they're a bunch of hippies. Where, oh man, isn't it in where it talks about Captain Moroni and having captains over 5 and chiefs over 50 and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same principle here. As they continue to add more and more employees, the need for somebody at the helm and the need for department heads then to then report in turn to the big boss becomes increasingly important. I understand they want to not hurt anybody's feelings and not make anybody not feel important and blah blah blah, but that's not how society works.
Yeah.
So I think that will be the, if they cannot nail down their organization structure, they cannot afford to continue to grow, really.
Agreed. I completely agree with that.
I totally agree with that as well. I think, and as far as, I don't know, I think they will fail without that organization. They'll keep having people resign on them. They'll keep having problems within the business. People might be overworked. People might not have their needs met. Obviously, whenever you expand and grow, you're going to have administrative costs go up. So that would be something for not growing so fast. But if they don't fix that, they should slow down that growth.
Yeah, so if the user base explodes, then a company is going to implode because they're simply not going to be able to carry that workload.
Exactly. Yeah, and let's see, the next question is talking about the resignations. And the first one that's on the list is, let me scroll back down to that, because exactly what happened to her, but you're just saying. I don't remember the name. Okay. So it was Dale Kiefling. He's the one that left because he was on call every other week or so. And when he was on call, he got calls every 8 minutes. It was just too much for him. He couldn't handle it. And that's exactly what you were just saying, Herb. If they increase their customer base, if it's already this bad, where they're getting calls every 8 minutes, they increase the customer base by a large percentage, it's only going to be worse. And they need to really nail down that organization structure and automation so that they can actually scale to that point. Let's see, and the other ones who left, so David Conrad, why was it he left?
He didn't quite know what he was going to be doing.
Yeah, there wasn't enough structure for him. He didn't. Yeah, that's exactly what that one says.
And really, and I almost kind of like that, right, is that he gave up because he felt that they didn't really take advantage of him.
Right. And I feel like he was being used to his potential. And I thought it was really interesting. Quite a few of them felt that way. And a lot of them left right before they vested their stock options, which shows that they didn't care much about the money as much as they cared about what they were doing and what they were accomplishing. So I think that says a lot about these people. Let's see. David. What was his reason for leaving again? I'm sorry, I read this 3 days ago and have to look back at it. David was the one that was interfering with his family life, and he talked about how they had meetings late on Friday afternoons, but it was fine because pretty much everyone else there is single, but it was really hard on his family life because he was always at work. So that's another reason one left. I think the last two, well, the last one he left because he just disagreed about strategy, which makes sense because I disagree with it too. And then, let's see. Yeah, so the other one was basically the same as David. So he wasn't getting used to his full potential either. Didn't feel he was working on projects that really mattered, and he didn't really get to do what he was hired for because they knew they wanted him in the future, but they weren't ready for it yet. So I think really it all comes back down to their organizational structure. I think a lot of those employees could have stayed on had it been a little more organized.
Yeah, and I think the underlying problem is a work-life balance, right? The prince and his the lady that he met at the university, you know, they live across the street, so this is their life, this is their baby, so of course they're going to give it their all. But all the rest of these employees are au pairs or nannies or kindergarten teachers. They don't want to hang around this child 24/7. That's because it's not that near and dear to their heart. So
exactly,
there needs to be mid-level management that can say, hey, Landon, you need to go home. You've been here for 12 hours. It's enough. Go home.
Exactly. And that's exactly what they said in the case, that people look to Prince, and he was staying late, so they kind of judged about how long they should stay based off of the example he was setting. And I think it was Michelle that said something like, you need to take work off, you need to take a vacation, or else your employees are never going to do it. And they're not as passionate about it, just like you said, Herb. They just got burned out on it, I think. So the question asked, is it worth it to make those changes to keep the people who left? I don't know necessarily that it's worth it to make the changes specifically for those people, but I think it's definitely worth it to make the changes because I think they're just going to see more resignations in the future if they don't. I think it's an internal issue that is causing these people to leave. Let's see, we're running out of time here. Okay, we discussed that fairly well. Let's move on to the group decision part. It says, should CloudFlare implement more process and structure, hire a VP of HR, and start using titles? I think they should, definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, that was my thought. At minimum, they need to hire somebody in HR that can kind of be a mediator between the different employees and also be a spokesperson for those employees who have different personal circumstances. Like that one employee who resigned who had a family that lived on the other side of the states. The other employee, I think it was the first one that resigned because they had their first baby. You know, so they need to have somebody who is a spokesperson for those employees that just have different personal circumstances.
Yeah, I completely agree. So then it asks, should they slow down growth? Yes or no? Personally, I think they should continue growth, but only after they fix their structure problems. I don't think they should grow too fast until that's fixed. So that's kind of a trick question for me. I think that growth is very important for the business model.
Yeah, I agree with that. There needs to be, you know, yes for growth, but with that caveat that they need to fix some stuff before they can do that.
Yeah. And that leads to the answer for the next question. If they do that, just like Austin said, I think they have a solid track record. They have a fantastic business model, a great value proposition, but they need to take care of their internal customers, which is their employees, or which are their employees. And so if they create that kind of, they can continue. I mean, there are plenty of tech companies that have that team spirit and kind of informal organization structure, but that are still compliant with, you know, having proper HR policies and proper work-life balance. So if they get that under control, man, the world is their oyster.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that if they can implement that and then grow after they've really got themselves structured. It talked about the financial implications, and really hiring one more person for them to run HR and structure things a little bit is going to save them more in the end, which will help them grow too. So I think overall the cost structure will improve. Yeah, that was the last one. So any last comments, ideas, opinions that you guys want to share before I stop the broadcast?
No, I think we had a solid discussion tonight.
All right.
I agree with that.